Okay, 7.4. So we're coming up here closer to the end. Sorry, I just spaced out. I'm good. 7.4 tax credits. So we already talked about what a tax credit is and all these different tax credits here. This is going to also be a very quick lesson because there are 2 questions and then a little journal question here at the end as well. So again, a tax credit directly decreases how much you pay in taxes. We've talked about a tax deduction, which decreases your taxable income, right? A tax deduction is just money the government pretends you didn't make. Yes, a tax deduction lowers your taxes, but not directly. A tax credit is a direct dollar for dollar decrease of how much you owe in taxes. And again, there's lots of different tax credits. We talked about these in particular being some of the most common ones. Let's go ahead and read this. Ellen is doing her taxes and determines that she should have paid $7,291 in taxes throughout the year. However, she is able to claim the child tax credit of $2,000 for each of her 3 children. So kind of going through this, $2,000 for each of her 3 children, as well as she already had this much withheld from her pay throughout the year. So again, what this means, guys, is that she has already paid this, right? Withheld from her pay means taken from her paychecks. This is what she should have paid. All of this together is technically what she has paid so far. A tax credit basically counts for what you have paid so far, yeah? So it says, will she get a refund or owe more taxes and how much? So what we want to do is, again, kind of similar to the tax, the itemized deductions. We are going to compare, yeah? So what we're going to label these columns as is we want to label it as what she should have paid, right? That's that phrasing right there, versus what she did pay. We are trying to figure out if she's going to get a refund or owe more taxes and how much. So we need to compare the two. Depending on which is bigger, tells us if you get a refund or if you owe more taxes. So it does say, but just make sure we're reading through the problem. What does it say she should have paid? Right here, she should have paid $7,291. So you guys have to read very carefully and put the information where it goes. Now let's look at what she did pay. She did pay these things, right? These tax credits count for money she has paid, even though she hasn't, right? That's why it's called a credit. They're basically giving it to you. And then that's how much she had withheld from her paycheck. So I'm going to go ahead and write that number first. Because again, the child tax credit is $2,000 for each of her 3 children. So that's 3 $2,000s or $6,000 if you want to just do that. Just to make sure we don't get confused on where a $6,000 is coming from, I'm just going to write it 3 times. So take a moment, add those together, and then let's see how much she did technically pay. Well, 6,000 plus this is going to be 11,890.13. So let's compare. Should have paid versus did pay. Did she pay too much or did she pay too little? Therefore, is she getting a refund or owing more taxes? What do we think? She paid too much. So what this means is because this number is bigger, she is getting a refund. Again, if the did pay column is the bigger one, paid too much, she gets a refund. So a refund, again, or a refund or owing, doesn't matter. You are going to subtract these 2 numbers. So go ahead and subtract those as well. Because since she paid too much, she is going to get a check for the difference. 11,890.13 minus 7,291. Okay, so this is her refund for 599.13. So if she did not, I want you to kind of realize something here. If she did not have those 3 kids, she would have owed taxes, right? If this is what she did pay compared to what she should have paid, she wouldn't have paid enough. But because she has those 3 kids, she is going to get a big fat refund. So again, that's something to keep in mind about paying taxes everybody's situation is different. She could make the exact same amount as somebody else she works with, but because she has kids, her taxes are going to be different, right? So again, refund or owe, regardless, you are going to be subtracting the two numbers in the end. Either they get refunded that much or they owe that much. But it is a refund because this number was bigger. So I want you guys to try it one more time. Hopefully I did this right. Again, set it up. Should have paid. That's based on what it says when they file compared to what they did pay. See if you can organize the information, compare, say refund or owe, and then figure out how much. Okay, just got to read. Should have paid $4,589. What they did pay is technically this tax credit and this amount withheld from their pay. So $519 and $1,923.94. Now, hopefully you can kind of already see, I mean, you should have already done this problem, but they're not going to have paid enough, right? 0.94, oops, 119.23.94 plus 519. Yeah, they definitely did not pay enough. 2,442.94. Okay, so depending on which is bigger, we should have said they should have paid this much. They only paid this much. So since this is bigger, our answer is owe more taxes. Even with a tax credit, just because you get tax credits doesn't mean you're going to get a refund, right? You still have to pay enough throughout the year and then include those tax credits. But they didn't pay enough here. So just again, because you get a tax credit, it doesn't mean that you're suddenly going to get a refund. Okay, so I'm going to subtract those. 4,589 minus 2,442.94. So again, regardless, you are going to subtract them. In this case, though, this is the check they would need to send off to the IRS because they didn't pay enough taxes throughout the year. So hopefully, again, we're understanding how this is a little bit different than a tax deduction. A tax credit directly goes towards what you should be paying in taxes versus a tax deduction only decreases your taxable income. So we are going to write that down. What's the difference between a tax credit and a tax deduction? So try and write it in your own words if you can. I said it a couple times throughout this lesson, and then I'll write something down here. So a tax credit directly decreases, and again, this means dollar for dollar. If you have a tax credit of $100, you're paying $100 less in taxes. The taxes you owe. So again, if you want to write down the example that a $100 tax credit means you pay $100 less in taxes. That's a tax credit, a credit towards your taxes. A tax deduction still will decrease how much you pay in taxes, but only because it decreases how much of your income is going to get taxed. So a $100 tax deduction does not mean $100 less in taxes. It means $100 less in income that the government is taxing you on. So that's a very important, again, distinction to understand. Tax credit directly decreases your taxes. Tax deduction decreases, again, how much of your income is actually going to get taxed. So very easy questions. Hopefully, again, you're following what I'm doing and organizing the work. This is really going to help. If you don't organize the work like this, you can get jumbled up for such a simple question.